Oh boy, is this gonna be good because today I'm gonna tell you my experience of going to one of the worst airports in the whole country, and the one I went to is called Luton Airport. Now, Luton Airport, apart from being known as one of the worst airports, it's also known as the hub for many budget airlines like your Wizz Air, EasyJet, and Ryanair. And you know, these airlines take you from point A to point B, specifically around Europe. So if you're in the hunt looking for cheap flights to go to European countries, London Luton Airport is one of the places you would catch those flights from. Now, even though it is rated one of the worst airports in the whole country, it does still have about 18 million passengers that fly through it every single year. And the low rating it gets is from its overcrowdedness and limited facilities. Even though it's rated as one of the worst airlines in the country, it's still a crucial gateway for budget airlines. Now, what I'm gonna do is talk to you about my experience and see, does it actually live up to all the bad things people say about them, or is it all exaggerated? So my flight was at 6:40 a.m. So we left the house at 4 a.m. We went by Uber, and the cost of the Uber was about £70, and the journey itself from my home to the airport was roughly an hour. It took a bit less than an hour because, you know, 4 a.m. the roads weren't really that packed. Now, if you compare the travel time between Luton Airport or the other most popular airport in London is Stansted Airport, the travel times are pretty similar. Still a 15 to 20 minute difference, but you know, I think it's alright. There's two places for you to park your cars, I believe. One is the mid stay and one is the express stay. We went to the express stay, which is right in front of the airport. If you go to the mid stay one, I believe it's a 10-minute walk to the terminal. And Luton Airport, by the way, has only one terminal as well, which is, I guess it makes sense why it's always overcrowded. But we did go to the express stay, which is only about a 2 to 3 minute walk to the entrance of the airport. Once you go in, there are a few shops around, like I didn't quite manage to get the footage, but if you don't want to go into any of the shops, from the entrance to where you actually scan in your tickets is only about a 2 minute walk. And surprisingly, it wasn't that overcrowded at all. I actually probably queued up for about 5 seconds or even less, and I just scanned the tickets and went straight through. After you scan your ticket, it's the security process, so that's where the longest queue was, and the queue was actually quite long. However, we went through the queue quite quickly. Now, the whole process of us coming into the airport, lining up to have our items like bags and stuff scanned, only took about 15 minutes, and that's including the time it took for the security people to check two of our bags. So two of our bags got pulled to the side and they just opened up to have a look. Including that time, it only took us 15 minutes. For an airport that has a bad reputation for being overcrowded, that's actually pretty amazing. And obviously there's a separate line for fast track, which was completely empty. So if you don't want to wait the 15 minutes, you can obviously buy that, which is usually about, I think, £7-8 extra per person. Now, after you do the bag checks, you have the duty-free area, and I didn't really have time to explore because I was with family and they just wanted to sit and relax because it was an early morning flight. So we just went straight near the gates where there's seating areas. You do have to walk through all the duty-free area, but it's only a 5-minute walk. There were I would say an alright range of food places if you wanted to eat. Obviously, being in an airport, you have to pay dumb prices, even for the most basic things, but they're there for you. I bought 3 drinks. It was a 3 for 2 offer from WH Smith. I think those 3 drinks cost me about £6. It was just 1 water and 2 iced teas. Now, the seats were pretty packed, and we did eventually find some spaces as gates were closing and people had to go. So you might have to walk around a little bit to look for spaces, or you might just have to stand on a side. But eventually you will find spaces. Now the seats aren't super comfortable, they're just normal padded seats. They were alright. It was more comfortable than the Stansted ones though, because those ones are just wood. This one had like a little bit of padding to it. Now moving on to cleanliness, especially in the toilet. Whoever went before me had a rough time because there was a smudge of shite. Obviously not the best welcome present. It's a public restroom after all. If you've used public restroom, you know how bad it can get. It can smell horrendous to the point where you start gagging, and I'm quite sensitive with that stuff, meaning if it smells even a little bit, I start gagging. Surprisingly, the toilets did not stink at all. There were only 6 actual toilets. There were some cubicles, about 4 or 5 cubicles, and 6 actual toilets, I believe. And there was a queue for that. As far as public toilets go, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. From the seating area, there are quite a few screens from where you can look at your gate number. Now from the seating place to the gate, it took us roughly 5 minutes. And you know, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that crowded either. The only problem was that, I don't know if this is the case for every single gate, but we boarded from gate number 16. And right before you board the plane, they check your passport, they check your ticket. For us to get there, we had to climb downstairs, and it wasn't escalators, it was actual stairs. And you know, we had 1 luggage, and obviously for me it wasn't a problem, but if you're like someone elderly, I don't know how you would pick up the luggage and go downstairs, because I didn't see any lifts. So I guess that's one bad thing. So the wait in the gate was about 10 minutes, which is alright, I would say, because after they checked our tickets, we had to wait for an extra 3 to 4 minutes before we boarded the plane. Now, you know, boarding the plane is straightforward. They just open the gate, you walk out. On your ticket, it will say if you're going in through the front or if you're going in through the back doors of the plane. So we got in the plane actually quite early, I would say about around 6:20, I think. We got inside the plane. So our flight was supposed to leave at 6:40. But we ended up leaving at 7:10. So, is Luton really the worst airport in London and one of the worst airports in the whole country? Well, it's not exactly glamorous and luxurious. It does have its rough spots, but it wasn't as terrible as I would expect one of the worst airports to be. There are definitely some good points. For example, waiting at the security line was very quick because I had a horrendous experience with Stansted Airport, and I was taking a morning flight with Stansted Airport as well. So if you're comparing that, Stansted Airport took much longer. I believe in Stansted Airport it took about half an hour. But I think the reviews might be slightly exaggerating. I don't know, maybe it's because I went early morning, it wasn't as crowded. Maybe during the day it's way more crowded. But my experience with Luton, it was quite good, and I would definitely fly from Luton again. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if you think Luton deserves the rating of one of the worst airports in the country, because I don't know, I don't really see it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and before I end the video, I'll show you a landing footage, because I flew with Ryanair and they're known to have one of the worst landings. And I don't know, the landing, it wasn't as bad as one of the other flights I took with Ryanair. So well done to the pilot. The landing, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. Anyways, see you guys in the next one.